Some of these are up on my website already, but yeah, that's the real life, right? That's real life. All right, here we go. Hey everybody, this is Andrew here, and doing a live video from my painting studio. And I thought it would be cool to go through some of my art over the last decade. So that's what I'm going to be doing. And basically I just wanted to come here and share a bunch of different art. Like I have a bunch of different pieces out that I'm going to be going through. So the first piece that we have right here is called Personality Park. And sometimes, you know, I'll change titles of pieces. Like just because I call it that right now doesn't mean I'm going to keep it like that. So like I do change titles around. So anyways, this piece is called Personality Park, and yeah, it was kind of a fun piece to do. I remember I went pretty quickly with it, and actually what was interesting is I've played with both oils and acrylics, and this is an acrylic piece, and I was trying to bring through the immediacy of drawing because I love drawing. And I'm actually going to show some drawings because I have a ton of drawings that I absolutely love drawings. Pencil on paper. I don't know what it is, but I love them. So I'm going to show some of those too. But I was testing out ways to sort of bring through my drawing application. And so I actually just got a Sharpie and I started drawing on the canvas, and I was able to draw like the whole scene pretty quickly, and it flowed really nicely, and I was so happy with it. But I don't know if you can see, the Sharpie actually bled through the paint, and like as I was painting, it started like bleeding through, and so there's all these lines. Let's just see if you can see that. Let's see, see the face? You can see the Sharpie. And some figures, well, not that one, this one, you can see it actually changed the whole look and feel. So in some ways it was kind of interesting because, you know, when it comes to doing figures, I like there to be a little bit of spontaneity, you know? It's like, so it was okay. It was kind of interesting when the figures like started changing and the Sharpie started bleeding through, and it just like suddenly a face turned from happy to angry or vice versa, and I was like, that's actually kind of interesting. So sometimes with art you just have to embrace the mistakes and just go with it. So this one's called Personality Park, acrylic on canvas, and you can see this is a piece that I was doing also during that time. And I never got very far with it. I just basically have the drawing on there. But, you know, it's kind of a cool piece, really, if you just look at it for what it is. And so that was one piece that I did during that time also. So this is called Personality Park, and it was pretty cool. You know, it was a fun piece to do. And, let's see. That's it. Just the canvas on the back, stretch canvas. 2017, 2018 maybe. All right, what's next? The next piece I'm going to show is, let's do this one because it's a little bigger too. This is like, actually no, I'm going to bring that one in after. Let's do this one. All right, Grizzly Bear. Okay. Let's get that lined up. So this is, it's a grizzly bear. And so I've done lots of different figures. Like that's the thing with what I've done with, you know, my paintings is I pretty much go all over the place and just try and find things that work. And so this is a grizzly bear piece that I did. And actually this landscape in the back is a view from Squamish, BC, which is where I live. And I went outside. Another thing I do, which is I'm going to show some pieces in this video also, is some of my landscapes. And yeah, I've spent a lot of time going outside and painting landscapes. And so that's where I learn a lot about color. And so this is actually one of the landscapes that I did. I used that particular piece as sort of the model for color. And I threw in this grizzly bear. And yeah, it was a pretty interesting piece. Let's see, get a close-up here. We got all sorts of things happening here in the front. It was kind of playful, you know. I had some flowers and some rocks, some different colored rocks. It's kind of a nice grizzly bear piece. So that's one of the grizzly bear pieces. I'm going to leave that up, and I'm going to show. Why don't I show some landscapes now? So this was done in Squamish. This was done last year, and these pieces usually take me about between, I would say, 2 and 3 hours. I find I can go and paint a landscape, and it's so refreshing actually to go and stand there with, you know, set up my easel and paint these landscapes. You know, spend a couple hours by the side of a river painting a landscape. And it's, like I said, it's where I learn, you know, I learn a lot about color. And sometimes they're successful and sometimes they don't work. This one, I remember I wasn't too pleased with it when I finished it. But when I saw this just tonight when I was looking at doing this video, I was like, hey, that's actually really cool. And there's so much information in there. Like, this is a reflection, this is water. There's so much information in there that I learned when I was making this painting, and that I noticed recently as I was in my studio working on a piece. A lot of these memories came up of moments like this where I need a reference for water, and I have these points, these memories quite deeply integrated that I can reference of how to paint water, just different moments where I learned something as I was outside painting. So for all you people out there, or for all you artists out there that, you know, want to get better at art, definitely get outside and paint directly from life. It's a great teacher. And that's how I learned to paint. When I was in art school, I was a drawing major, and I was in my 4th year, and I had to do my final piece for the big grad show, and I was like, I'm going to do a painting. So I did this huge painting. It was like 6 foot by 8 foot or something like that. And I remember getting like halfway into it, and I'm like, oh my God, this is taking forever. Like, I don't even, like, it was just such a reality check, and I realized how much I don't know about painting. So when I graduated and I went home, I set up an art studio at my parents' house. Thanks, Mom and Dad. And I went and I started painting landscapes to learn how to actually paint. And that's one of the things that I've done, and that's sort of been my understanding of color theory, which I reference a lot today. So there's this piece. All right, what's next? I feel like I gotta slow down with this video, you know, like take my time with it. I got so much art from the last 10 years. So this is like a decade of art. I'm kind of just going through a bunch of old pieces and talking about the work and sharing it with everyone and giving everyone something interesting to watch, maybe instead of watching the news. I find watching the news almost like creates a little bit of anxiety sometimes. All right, we might as well head back to the figure zone. Now, I like painting people. And this is a series of heads that I started doing, and this is acrylic. This is head number 17. This is the 17th one that I completed. I wanted to do 100, and I think I got about 30 in, or 20. I just bought this easel, and I love it. I absolutely love this thing. It's like, instead of balancing paintings on books and like, yeah, having them kind of precariously sitting there, I got this easel recently and I'm loving it. Anyways, this was one of the pieces I did in my head series, and basically the criteria was it's just got to be a face. And so I just started testing out all these different things. These were actually all in acrylic also. I'm more trained in oils, but I moved into acrylic, and I've been testing acrylic too. And so this whole series was done in acrylics, and so this was it's a big green head. I mean, it's pretty cool. It kind of I think I called it Envy. It just reminds me of like money, like the color of money, or like envy. You know, envy and money kind of go together in some ways. But these were kind of fun, these pieces. I don't think I was using any references, so I was just drawing these things from my imagination, which I find is kind of like drawing from a photo, just not as good. Like, I find I've seen a lot of faces and I've drawn a lot of faces, so I have a specific structure of a face in my head to reference, but it's not ultra specific like you can get with someone sitting right in front of you. It's a little bit generic, but that's essentially what I use, and I'm just more playing with just different applications and trying to get different effects from the paint. I mean, for me, that's what painting is, just trying to find something that's enjoyable and that you can have fun with. So this painting is called Envy. It's head number 17. There it is right there. 2019 I did that one. Let's keep going here. All right, let's do some more landscapes. We're going to go back to the landscapes. Jack Bride, how you doing? Speaking of landscapes, I went painting with this guy and we painted some landscapes together, and I remember one of the first times we went painting, we went out to this cabin, we were painting these landscapes, and I'd done a number of landscapes up until then, and he hadn't done as many, but we went to art school together and we basically trained together. So he had the skills, but I remember we did like 2 or 3 landscapes, and he did this landscape of the sunset, and I was like, oh shit, that's really good. And I was like, mine should be really good because I've been doing it for so long. And here he comes, 3 paintings in, does this beautiful landscape. I'm sure he remembers which one I'm talking about. Speaking of landscapes, let's look at some landscapes. Here's one. All right. So, as I mentioned, you know, some of these are up on my website already, but that's typical in artist studios where you have paintings falling off of easels, okay? That's the real life, right? That's real life. All right, here we go. It's a little better. So this is oh my God. All right, so this is a piece that I did in Squamish, BC, and this is a pretty new piece too. Actually, I think I did this last summer, and it's just overlooking the Squamish Valley. Got some storm clouds rolling in, and yeah, I remember I hiked up. I find all sorts of different places. Like, that's the one thing, it gets you kind of out in your neighborhood and in the local area, and you kind of walk around. And yeah, so this is one of the pieces that I did, which was quite cool. And let's just jump right into another one. So this one is actually up on my website right now. I don't remember what I titled it. Now here's another one. So this one was done. Oh, there we go. Look at that. Squamish River, 2016, Whistler, BC. So this was done in 2016, and there was this beautiful river running through Whistler, BC, and it's called the Squamish River, and I would just go there all the time because there's so many cool spots, and you'd be sitting there, and the kayakers would be coming down, and so yeah, this painting, you know, some parts work, some parts I think I could fix and do a little better at, but honestly, you just kind of do them, and some people connect with different pieces for different reasons. So anyways, Squamish River, 2016. All right, what else do we got? This is one of my favorite ones, and honestly, I find that my favorite pieces are sometimes not other people's favorite pieces. So I have my favorites of my work just as other people do. So this is called, I called this one Relic, which I thought was kind of nicely suited for it. But on my way to my carving studio, there is this field with all these massive stumps kind of cut. And growing around the stumps and out of the stumps, I didn't actually include it, there's like trees and branches, and it's like there's so much of life, and there was so much, there were just really fascinating kind of events in the landscape. So I had to stop and I painted this one, and I remember it was super hot. It was like 30 degrees, and you got to be careful sometimes when you're painting in the heat because it can get you. All right, so this one is called Relic. And this one is actually, this is oil on birch panel. So a friend of mine recommended that I try birch panel, and I tried it a few times in the past. And then I decided to really give it a go. So I bought probably like 20 panels, and I primed them with gesso, and I went out and I worked on these birch panels for a while. And ultimately I found my way back to canvas. There's something that I like about the canvas. But the birch panels were, you know, they provided a different sort of surface to paint on, and it creates different effects. So that was cool. You know, if I hadn't done it then, I probably would still be thinking about it and maybe would want to do it now. But anyways, yeah, this is one of my favorite pieces. Love the stump. Lots of information. I remember I learned a lot with that one too. I was probably 2-3 hours standing there painting this piece out in the landscape. Okay, we're going to switch gears a little bit. I showed you guys some landscapes, some figurative work, and as mentioned, these are all pieces that I've done over the last decade. I wanted to sort of do a decade of art, sharing what I've done over the last 10 years, and actually it's about maybe 8 years because a lot of the work is actually back at my parents' place that I don't have access to right here and now. So what I wanted to do is I wanted to show some drawings because I went to art school and I was a drawing major. Maybe I should put something up. Okay, I'm going to actually put this painting up here while I look at some drawings. I don't know if you recognize that person, but that's me, right? So that's a self-portrait, and that's another way that I've learned kind of skin tones, and this is an oil on panel. There it is. I remember when I was more in school, I did a ton of self-portraits. So it was a great way to learn to paint, to learn color, and I would recommend anyone out there that hasn't done a self-portrait from a mirror to try doing that, because it's a lot different than from a photograph. And I found you learned a lot more. So anyways, I'm going to set that there while I look at some drawings. So I got some drawings here. So this is somewhat random. I'm just pulling drawings out of this big box. I probably got 100 right here beside me. And when I was in school, and probably 4 years after school, I drew extensively in sketchbooks, and you know, just that was my way to work out ideas or develop my techniques. So I got some drawings here, and you can see you'll see they're quite different in terms of what ideas I was exploring, and some of these are actually quite old. And personally, I love drawing. This is 2010, so this is exactly 10 years ago. So fascinating. So we got this guy walking in like this matrix type environment, And lots from my imagination. That's what I loved about drawing, is I could just pick up my sketchbook and my pencil crayons and just kind of start without any planning and just see what happens and see what unfolds. So this is one of the drawings. So if you're interested in buying any of the work, you can go check it out on my website. I probably won't have it up right after I release this video. I still have to sort of set it all up, but that's the name of the game for artists, right? You want to sell your work too. Okay. So that's one of my drawings. All right, what else do we got? This is another one here. This woman is obviously very disgruntled, although she doesn't look like, her face is kind of pleasant and almost smiling, but this is obviously uncomfortable. And so that's another element that I really loved doing with my drawings and with my artwork, is depicting the inner reality of people, like what's going on emotionally. It's kind of interesting when you think about the history of art, and I could be totally wrong here, but you know, you think of back to, like, to the Renaissance, where you have a very formal depiction, a very conservative or traditional depiction of the human form. And then you move into like abstract expressionism, where you have the reverse. It's almost like you're expressing what's happening on the inside. And now we have a reality where these two things can come together and you can express both together. But anyways, that is something that interests me, is that psychological element about drawings. This is just pencil crayon, and that's it. Pencil crayon and some felt marker on paper, and it's just on like a panel to protect it, and in a plastic sheet. So that's kind of a cool drawing. Lots of color in that one. Here's another one, which kind of reminded me of someone riding a bicycle. And this might even be earlier than 2010. So I'm just kind of like, you know, drawing is like, or art is a process where you're actually exploring yourself, and the drawings become a reflection for you to see yourself, right? And you can look at yourself through the drawing, like, oh, well, what's going on here? Well, you know, I interpret my own drawings, you know what I mean? Why did I use the color pink? Why did I use the color blue? It's like you create these images and then you look at them and maybe get a snapshot of what's going on with you. But also try not to get too heady about it and just have fun with it, you know? Okay. Here we go. This is interesting. So this is pencil. Pencil on paper. Keep it simple, right? I find like that's the real test sometimes of an artist, is like, give them just the basics. What can they do with just the basics? You know? So this is you got the guy, the big boss guy with the money sign on his tie there, and he's chained to the slave. But it's kind of ironic because they're chained to each other, so neither of them is really free. They each need each other. So that's kind of an interesting depiction. This has a lot of energy, this piece. You can see the mark making. These drawings are fun. They're not like super refined, like, you know, you kind of go all over the map, and maybe the next one after this I would do it a little more refined. But this one, you know, it's got a lot of energy in it, and it's a really cool drawing. And this is just pencil, graphite on paper. All right, these are a couple cool pieces. Look at that. That's a face. So I sort of stumbled on this way of creating figures or creating forms, where I literally would just like scribble, and that, you know, when you look in the clouds for faces, it's kind of like that. So you're doing these scribbles, which have a really brilliant energy and flow if you can just let it go. Like, I love this little mark, this over here. And then I start looking for the face in the lines, or, you know, And then I kind of pull it out. Once I see something, I kind of lock it or I capture it and then pull it out. Because you can look like, what if you do that? Like, it's just scribbles. But there's a little face right there you can see. And you can have multiple faces in the same image, and it creates the context. So I really love these like simple little, I don't know what even to call them, but they're so fun to do, and you can do them, you can just sort of express and do them, and so these ones are always close to my heart, I would say. And I actually got another one of those coming up right now, which is a really cool one. He's got a little frame around him, blue frame that I did. But this is, again, you can see these patterns, and for me, I was like, it's almost like a kind of code that it references a psychological aspect of the human being, which is quite interesting. And you can see here, he's kind of thinking almost, and this, he's obviously got something happening inside himself, which we all do when we're walking down the street. We have inner realities, and that's what these drawings are about. And this is one of my favorite pieces too. I love this piece. And look at that. I got a business card in there. So that's my, yeah, that's an old business card. It's one of my first business cards that I did. And I designed that little logo and that little paintbrush. I remember that took me a long time. But anyways, graphic design is another thing that I've spent some time doing, because as an artist, you gotta profile yourself and you gotta put yourself out there, do a lot of your own design work. And it's kind of lucky though, because artists are artists, so they can kind of do that kind of work. Anyways, this guy's gonna be up on my website too. I think he already is, actually. So if you like any of these pieces, these are all original work that I'm showing you right now, and they're all gonna be up on my website. All right, oh, we got three more beauties. Okay, lots of drawings to show, because I love drawings. I think drawings are the coolest thing. Like, I think they're maybe underrated a little bit. Works on paper. This is just a face that I drew out of my imagination, and it's felt, it's acrylic paint, it's pencil crayon, and I just sort of created something in a moment. And again, it's that point of you're kind of using the art to reflect your own mood. Sometimes I just sit down and draw something because I have a certain experience that I need to get out. Other times I don't have anything, and I kind of force myself to do some art, and then something cool happens or nothing happens. It's kind of a tricky process, really. Anyways, this piece was probably done, don't have a year on it, but probably around 2010. I got that business card, which is a marker of time. So that kind of indicates when around this piece was created. And I don't think I've ever put this up on my website or anything for sale. So most of these drawings have really, not a lot of people have really ever seen, except for me and my wife. All right, this is a fun piece. This is like, oh man, what do you guys think? What is this? This is like, gotta scroll on Instagram, right? Gotta look at my news feed for 25 seconds. But I really like it as a drawing. It's pencil crayon and pencil is actually kind of a difficult combination to get right, because the graphite has a metallic look to it and pencil crayon is like matte. But there is a lot of cool things that happen with the 2 points. So you've got the girl there looking at her phone, and I don't remember what I called this, but you got the hands kind of holding you. Once you get that glow locked onto your brain, it's like sometimes it's hard to just shut it off. So that's what this piece is about, and got the card in there. But this one I actually think I did probably 3 years ago, if I remember correctly. This is a pretty cool piece, another original drawing. Oh, I forgot about my coffee. Love coffee. Coffee and art. Like the perfect combination. All right. This is one of my favorite self-portraits of all time, this would be a good one to end on because I got the self-portrait back here. And this is 2019, this one. And this one is probably 2006. So this goes back 12 years ago or something. Oh, 2006, look at that. Okay, so that's me sitting at my parents' house. So I just graduated from art school and I was at home and I was painting up a storm because I was going to be a famous artist. And so I was home and I was painting every day. And my parents just let me do it. I had a year basically where I just was like making paintings and making drawings, and I was sitting in the window in the wicker chair, and I was doing a lot of painting during that time, so it really was coming through with the solidity of the form in my drawings. But I really like this one because I don't know how, I just feel like the space and the form is really solid, and there's a lot of expressive marks in the wood grain, and so this is one of my all-time favorite self-portraits, and I probably have, I have so many self-portraits, but I really like this one. So anyways, self-portrait 2006. Okay. So I went through quite a bit of art. Symbolically, I think I have to leave it there because we have the self-portrait and then we had the other self-portrait. So I'm going to leave it there for today, and hopefully I can get things together and do another one soon. But anyways, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. Now I have to figure out how to turn this off.